BP tries again to cap well, protests set to start. This is the dialectic. People are egging their buildings, they're attacking BP stations, they're knocking out their windows, they're protesting, and BP says, don't do it. It'll hurt the local BP franchise owners. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Look, it's about a 95% chance now BP staged this. And it's, in fact, get me Watson online right now. I know he's working on another Bilderberg breaking news report from our inside sources that have sources within Bilderberg. But just dial up Watson right now via regular phone. I want to get him on right now. We can conclusively say now, in fact, I'm going to do a YouTube after the show today. We can clearly say now that all the evidence is clear. It's all now pointing directly at this being a staged event. It's taken me 36, 37 days to be able to say that, but all the evidence is pointing at it, and we'll explain why. We'll explain why. I mean, the biggest thing is, just like FEMA blocked off aid and wouldn't let the Coast Guard in and wouldn't let Walmart in and wouldn't let all the police and National Guard at first in and then wouldn't let them give aid to people, wouldn't let people walk out on the highways, wouldn't let them, told them to go to the Superdome and starve. It was to say, oh, look, we screwed up. We are bad. We need more funds, more power. And see, same thing with this now. Oh, we screwed up. We need more funds, more power. And notice it's the inside company, BP, the key globalist oil company that has been chaperoning and herding all the other oil companies. You know, ExxonMobil wouldn't do it until David Rockefeller went to the board meeting and pointed out, this was in the news, that he owns still all the major stock of the major 12 U.S. oil companies. And he said, I will remove you, Rex Tillerson. You will come out and call for global government. And 2 days later, Rex Tillerson was in the news saying, I want a global carbon tax. I want wellhead taxes. I want it all. And that was the end of it. Remember that? Well, notice it's BP. And notice now Goldman Sachs, the insiders, dumped more than half their stock right before it happened. Bring me Watson. Watson, are you there? I know you're working on a big Bilderberg report right now on Brzezinski, and that's important. But I am ready to say that it's a 90+%, let's just say 90% chance that this is an inside job that needs to be investigated. You got the Raw story getting the FOIA documents with their regulatory filings that Goldman Sachs dumped more than half their stock, 4,680,822 shares in the days before. The all-time record on a dump directly against BP. I noticed it wasn't against other oil companies. Same thing with Buzzy Krongard and Deutsche and Brown dumping record amounts and put options on American and United in the 4 days before 9/11. You have BP being the inner globalist Dutch Royal Shell, Queen Beatrix, Queen Elizabeth company. You have them being the main funder of global carbon taxes in the private corporate media, sponsoring TV shows, you name it. You have the fact that they will not cap it, that they got the award a month before, that Obama is now calling for his carbon taxes and wellhead taxes and pump taxes, so oil company taxes, citizen taxes at the pump, and carbon taxes, when their whole agenda is stalled to set up the world government and fund it. We know their dialectic of FEMA staging its own event and not allowing aid to get in, to then claim that they needed more funding and power. We called that day one. I can now conclusively say, Watson, hands down, this has got to be a staged event. All the evidence is pointing towards that. What say you, Watson? I want to bounce this off you here in a mini think tank. Get your quick take on it.
I can't say for sure, Alex, but it seems like BP and the government is more concerned about managing the public relations aspect of what's going on rather than stopping the actual leak.
Well, we know governments and corporations nexus together. Even the Washington Post admits today that, okay, BP is basically the big umbrella controller of the fake eugenics, climate control movement. And we need an article, or I can get Kurt or your brothers. I know you're working on this other one, but so call one of them. I got Aaron tied down on chemtrail research right now. That this needs to be investigated, and the fact that everything's so clamped down and they won't let media out there, and he's got SWAT teams guarding it. I'm telling you, my gut tells me this is a staged event, Watson.
Well, it's interesting that they tried to get James Cameron to work with BP to manage it, the Hollywood film director. And yeah, as he said, all the top environmental groups are tied at the hip with the oil companies because they both benefit from the fraudulent global warming agenda. The environmental groups get the power out of it, and the oil corporations get to create artificial scarcity and new taxes which they pass on to us. So,
well, Watson, correct me if I'm wrong, though. I mean, at first, some groups did approach Cameron because he, of course, has covered the Titanic, is an expert, at least in deploying robotic systems. But so are the oil companies. They probably know more than he does. But he's saying he was rebuffed by BP. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was involved in a brainstorming session with basically the government and scientists on Tuesday, and then he came out of the meeting and basically said they're stupid, they don't know what they're doing. So, I mean, you were making the point that there are now these microbes that eat up oil and that's not being explored properly. And merely the fact that oil itself is naturally occurring and that the environmental damage may be being hyped by the media. Obviously, the worst thing about it is the government shut down miles and miles of fishing regions in that area, and businesses are dying as a result of it.
Well said, Watson. And it just gets more and more suspicious. And, of course, there are natural microbes, New Scientist reports, that would, in just a year or so, eat almost all of this oil. They just kept it out of the marshes. That's the most important thing, but they're not doing that. They're not burning it off as they've always done in the past because that would create carbon dioxide. So either way you slice it, this is a serious situation. And now Obama says, hey, get ready for this to go on till Christmas, maybe years. This is just the way it is. And you better believe they're going to really try to get their carbon taxes out of this. They now admit they're doing it. And carbon taxes will do nothing to mitigate oil spills. And, of course, it is hurting the fishermen, but that's how the fishermen get gasoline to be able to go out there and engage in their fishing. And so at every stage, the government is making this as bad as they can, making this as horrible as they can make it, to exacerbate it. Watson, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, there goes Paul Watson popping in with us. Okay, I said I'd go to calls, and we've got people holding. But I've got 4 stacks of news, and I haven't even gotten into half of one of them. I kind of got stuck on my BP ranting. I've got Daily Chicago threatens to arrest 80-plus-year-old for defending himself in his home. Now, that's mainstream news. I've got premiums on gold bullion coins surge as gold shortages intensified at record levels worldwide. We've got just amazing news continuing on the BP front. Washington Post exposes BP ties to eco groups. Other media ignores controversy. That's from the Business and Media Institute. BP oil leak may last until Christmas, a worst-case scenario. Bloomberg boycotting BP. Who gets hurt? AP saying don't boycott BP. They're good environmentalists. They're helping us get carbon taxes. Good job, BP. Good job blowing that. Is what they ought to say. Of course, here's the article. Director James Cameron says BP turned down help of oil offer. And we've got good news. More incumbents being thrown out of office on every front. This is a full strike. We'll be back.